if they prepay. Never use the word pay in full. It has no incentive for the customer. Pay in full just sounds like it's good for me. Prepay sounds like there's maybe some type of incentive for it. And so use prepay, it's 20% off. If they say no, you drop down to 10% off. They pay half up front. If they don't do that, then you do installments of 4. If they can't do that, you lean in a little bit harder here. And then you potentially say, well, let's do some type of actual credit. So care credit, so that way you can do some type of installment plan. And then from there, you can do per visit. We've got a whole nother training on this, on full sales pricing and structure of all of the actual package stuff and how to actually show the patient, walk them through this stuff, make them actually understand it to where they understand your value. So that's a whole nother training in itself. And at the end of the video, I'll kind of walk you through how to get that. But for this, that's your very basic breakdown. If you're an in-network clinic and you've always wondered how do cash therapists charge $200 to $250 visit, meanwhile, my front office is over here telling me that like someone won't even pay their $30 copay. And so if that sounds familiar, or maybe you're wanting to even drop a couple insurances because you're tired of getting paid less than you're worth, this video is for you. So I'm Dr. Joey Allbritton with Rehab CEOs. We work with over 250 clinics around the nation. And so we've seen what works in cash, hybrid, in-network clinics, and how you can actually optimize this and make significantly more money. The thing we have to also be careful here, though, is there's a lot of things that people are falling into traps on pricing and how they advertise and do, that if you don't know better, you're either breaking compliance issues, or you're essentially making your team do way more extra work on fulfillment and stuff because we're doing all kinds of things with the wrong pricing strategy for paid ads. And so on this video, I'm going to walk you through insurance pricing and how you actually do that. And I know you're like, hey, I can't change my pricing. I have a contract. Trust me, you can. There's things that we can do to actually make this work. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about package pricing if you're wanting to maybe go a little bit more out of network. I'm going to talk about why some of these things are actually potentially causing some drop off and when they're causing these issues with any of your patients, the difference in lead quality on some of these things that we look at from paid ads and some of those, and then the big pitfalls that people fall into in relationship to paid advertising and insurance-based clinics. And so the very first thing we have to kind of start with, we have a whole nother video on company setup and how we have pricing and what you should be priced at based on how you're scheduled. I'm going to give you kind of an overview here so that way you can essentially get what we need from this. But then if you haven't seen it, there's a video above that you can actually see. And so with this, if we do 30-minute scheduling, effectively seeing 70 visits a week, that means we need to be like, that's for anybody that's below 95 average reimbursement. If we want to do 40-minute scheduling, you have to be above 95 average reimbursement. If you're doing 45-minute scheduling, you need to be above 106. If you're doing 60-minute scheduling, you need to be above 140. And again, if you're like, I don't know where those numbers came from, there's another video, watch that. That's a whole like 20-minute video in itself. Now that we know those are the pricing that we need to be at a minimum, now we're like, okay, well, how do I raise my prices, Joey? Because I'm in network and I can't really change there. Yes and no. And so we're not necessarily changing our pricing for what we're in network with, but we're making it to where it's much easier to sell all of those that actually are in network. And so what I mean by that is knowing that effectively most heavily in network clinics aren't really more than probably 5 to 10% cash anyways, but they're leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table because the people who effectively want to start, but they have a $30 to $60 copay, your front office is having a hard time actually having them justify why they should still do it. And so what we've seen historically is when insurance-based clinics actually come up with their pricing for cash, there's kind of one of two thoughts. They just match whatever their revenue per visit is, or some are like, well, I have no administrative burden, therefore I should lower my prices because it's easier for us and we want to make the bar lower. Really, all we're doing is lowering the bar of how much you have value-wise in the eyes of the person. And so what we've seen historically is, well, we need to actually be priced like some of these cash guys. Most of them have just thrown numbers out there and just picked it. But for you, it's like, we have to look at this. If let's say you're at a $90 average reimbursement, well, maybe you're scheduled at 40-minute scheduling. We need to have our cash pricing so high that it drags your average up into the profitability area that we need. Not only that, let's say someone comes in, they need 10 visits. We have a $200 a visit actual price point. Since we know that's our price point, we would say, hey, based on everything we're seeing, based on everything that I know, based on your condition and historical past, to get you back to XYZ, you're going to need at least 10 visits. And so for you, normally that would actually cost $2,000 if you were paying out of pocket. Luckily though, you actually have really good insurance. It's only going to be a $60 copay. So like, I don't know about you, but that sounds significantly better than, hey, you think everything's going to be covered because most people inherently don't understand how insurance works. Surprise, it's $60. And so instead, it now seems like we're getting 75% off. Some of you are going to have the objection of like, well, that seems not authentic. We're making up prices. Well, you already made up your prices, so you might as well make up a price that actually makes you money. And there's also going to be people that'll actually do that. And then all of a sudden, holy crap, we're getting $200 a visit. And for any of those that want to do that, I'll get into that in the next one, but we have to do this because it is a price anchor. This is how Black Friday exists. All the crap that you knew you didn't really need, you bought because there was a flash sale. Amazon has its flash day. Black Friday has their day. My wife comes home from Target and tells me I saved so much money. And we all know that she just spent a lot of money. I do the same thing, but like she's the queen of this and I give her a hard time all the time. So people will buy emotionally, and they will justify it with logic. And so since we know that, we need to essentially adapt that into the way we actually communicate with people. And so if they think it's $200, because it is your actual pricing, this is authentic. If someone comes in, you need to be able to charge them $200. It'll make it to where it's significantly easier to get someone to be fine with 2 to 3 visits a week at $60. And so that's the first part on the pricing. If now you're like, hey, I want to start going a little bit more out of network, how do I actually go about doing that? Because maybe they have really bad out-of-network benefits and like an $8,000 deductible. And so for us, what we typically do on package pricing is, let's say they need 20 visits. Some people will try to tell you this like gimmicky 6-visit, 10-visit, 20-visit plan of care. Everybody tries to act like they're all custom and all this type stuff, but then they give them a cookie cutter 6, 10, 20. Like I don't understand it because everybody has different issues, different comorbidities, different everything. And so like, well, what happens if someone needs a 14? And they also teach you to discount it heavier on the back end of a 20-visit plan of care, where typically most of the time you're not making any money on the 20-visit plan of care. And so what we do is say, well, what do you actually need? I know it sounds like novel, like actually give people what they need. And so what we do is like, okay, well, you need 10. It just happens to be 10. It could be 20, it could be 50, it could be 4. Whatever you deem necessary to get them better, you give them a 20% discount if they prepay. Never use the word pay in full. It has no incentive for the customer. Pay in full just sounds like it's good for me. Prepay sounds like there's maybe some type of incentive for it. And so use prepay, it's 20% off. If they say no, you drop down to 10% off. They pay half up front. If they don't do that, then you do installments of 4. If they can't do that, you lean in a little bit harder here. And then you potentially say, well, let's do some type of actual credit. So care credit. So that way you can do some type of installment plan. And then from there, you can do per visit. We've got a whole nother training on this, on full sales pricing and structure of all of the actual package stuff and how to actually show the patient, walk them through this stuff, make them actually understand it to where they understand your value. So that's a whole nother training in itself. And at the end of the video, I'll kind of walk you through how to get that. But for this, that's your very basic breakdown. So you never deviate from what you know is ideal for the person. This will allow you to make significantly more money and be able to start to have more confidence in selling someone that's maybe out of network because you're finally tired of insert whatever terrible insurance you have. I'm not going to say it so they're not coming after me. And so for y'all, the other thing that you're going to start to see, of course, in insurance world is we start to have drop-offs around visit 3 to 6. This is super, super common. A lot of times there's really 2 things that are causing this. It's either someone's getting out of pain around like the 4 to 6 point and they want to drop off because we didn't actually educate them on the fact that they are going to get out of pain, but we still have work to do. The other thing is we're starting to finally get this threshold of where someone's like, I'm kind of paying a lot of money and I'm maybe not sure how much I want to do this. In the cash world, it's actually probably closer to like a 2 to 4. In the insurance world, it's around 3 to 6. And that's because of the discrepancy in pricing. So a $60 copay, you can kind of do that because they're not just paying with their actual money, they're paying with their time. And for most people, that's more valuable. And so price is not just monetary. And so we have to really make sure we are aware of that because for anybody who's coming in 2 to 3 times a week, they are giving up a lot there. And so you just need to be aware of this stuff. But that's why If they know that this is worth $200 normally, it seems more valuable. Therefore, you actually want to use it. It's like anytime you get any of these things that are, if I gave you a Lambo and I'm like, hey, it's 50 grand, you're probably going to be pretty excited about it and you'll find a way to come up with 50 grand. And so we have to incentivize people to understand this, because everybody's like, oh, value, value, value. How do we get someone to understand the value? Well, first, we got to at least do it with pricing. Like, I'm sure if some of y'all have bought some stuff and you're like, that was really expensive, or like, how can anybody afford $400 for this meal? What are they doing different? But it kind of intrigues you because they're like, if they can do that and they have a wait list and they have these things, there's something about it. So price does naturally make you look more appealing. And of course, if you make more money, you can actually have a brand that has that price. And so we have to charge what we're worth, because most of us are not charging what we're worth. To be clear, Massage Envy, national chain, you probably all have one in your city, $2 a minute, $120 an hour for practically no education compared to what we have as a doctorate level program. But we have people who are afraid to charge $120. So I don't know about you. I couldn't even pass my boards, and I think I'm worth more than a massage therapist. No offense, massage therapist, if you happen to be listening. But if you're listening, we work with physical therapists, so it doesn't matter. And so, like, make sure you charge what you're worth. The hard thing is y'all will have to start to educate your team that they're actually worth that, because if they're not used to it, they're going to see it as sales, and they will be pushing people away because they're selling from their own wallet, because they're all broke students, because we all have a bajillion dollars in student debt. So we have to start to break those beliefs. So now the next thing we kind of run into is like, okay, well, I want to start doing paid ads for my clinic. So when I say paid ads, of course, there's Google, there's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Don't do TikTok. It's awful. But like, for this, there's kind of different conversions as we start to look at some of these things. Referrals, they should be at 80% or higher. Google, they're around 60 to 80. And then Facebook is around 20%. I'm going to group Instagram into it. It's all owned by the same company. The reason that is because we have the different discrepancy of how much they know, like, and trust you. So someone who's referred, they already said, hey, Joe Schmo down the street's awesome. You should make sure you go to them. Google, they're at least already actively searching, and someone probably already told them physical therapy is the fit. Facebook doesn't know who you are. They may not even know what physical therapy is. They don't even know sometimes what the inherent issue is of what they had. They haven't been diagnosed. And so there's a lower conversion rate, but there's about 10 times the lead flow. Like, I can't force someone to get someone from Google outside of like going to their head and putting a gun to their head. And so like, that's the only way you can do it. So Facebook is really powerful. So we need to be able to use that, so we can use it like, hey, I got a new hire, let's fill them. Hey, deductibles just reset in January, we need to fill it. And so the thing that people run into all the time here is a lot of advertisers, they treat insurance clinics like they're cash-based clinics, and it makes no sense. And I don't know why that's the case. I'm thinking a lot of times it's because they worked with Kairos first, so they don't even inherently understand the insurance world. And so if you ever had someone come in and tell you to do a $49 offer as an insurance-based clinic, or they've told you to do a free screen, it means they don't inherently understand insurance. Because $49, you and I both know, you legally can't even do that if you're contracted with someone. Like, you're breaking your contractual agreement with any of your insurance companies. You're kind of trying to justify this as a screen, and like, really, you're not really sure what consists as a screen of, or are we doing subjective? Can I touch them? Anything like that. If it's a free screen and we're doing it with Medicare, you've really got to be clear on what you're doing. Because otherwise, we're essentially incentivizing someone through Medicare to actually start to become a plan of care. And there's a lot of really things you can get in trouble with from a compliance standpoint. Because if we are doing any type of true education, any type of true actual running them through any assessment, that is not legally allowed. Like, you're essentially, it's the whole, like, I'm giving something free to then take money from the government. Like, that's essentially how they see it. That doesn't also factor in the fact that most of the time these free screens that people do are around 15 to 30 minutes, and they're super awkward to fit in your schedule. And so what happens is you schedule them, and then from there, they take up 15 to 30 minutes. You're like, oh, I'll just fit another one in, and then no one's in there. So then you wasted the whole hour. And so we don't want to have more points for you to essentially be unproductive there. And the inherent issue there too is the public doesn't understand health insurance. They already think it's free. So when they see most medical insurances and Medicaid or Medicare accepted, they think it's free. You don't need to give it away for free. You're going to have to educate them no matter what. So you might as well educate them on the phone versus spending all your time wasting and doing these free visits when they could just come in straight for an eval. Because every single patient, regardless of where they come into, has this weird facade that health insurance covers everything, and we all know it doesn't. And so you get the same lead flow of a free ad versus when you say we accept most medical insurance as a Medicare. You no longer have to do a free screen. The only time we do a free screen is like past patients, because we just need as many people in the door as we can. They already know, like, and trust us. We already know their coverage. We know we're just trying to get at something, a hand raiser there. But someone that like we don't even really know if they're even a good fit, some of those things, like just go straight to an insurance eval. Don't risk the compliance issues there. And so there's ways to do it, of course, on the screens. And so like if you don't have someone to teach you how to do compliance screens and stuff like that, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But please, please, please stop doing $49 offers. Stop doing free offers if you are a insurance-based clinic. I do $49 offers for our cash guys, but you are not cash. Use the thing that is a benefit for you. Like, we don't need to have a ask about cost availability thing on our website. Like, that's for cash guys. Just tell them to opt in for help. Like, you have to prioritize the things that are the actual benefit. People want to use their insurance, but we also need to weight it to where our pricing is so high on our cash that insurance just seems like a no-brainer. It's like when someone tells me, though, I don't know if I could really charge $2,000 for a plan of care. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. I don't even know if I would pay that. It's okay. Well, let's consider the alternative. If they don't go to you, what happens? They're going to have back surgery. How much do you think that's going to cost? They have a deductible $6,000 to $8,000. $2,000 sounds pretty cheap, because realistically, what happens when they have back surgery? What happens when they have hip surgery, knee surgery, shoulder surgery? They need physical therapy when they're done. So you're not only saving them money, you're saving them time, because you could essentially eliminate the whole entire middleman. And so you have to look at these things when you're pricing. Otherwise, you're going to be leaving thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on the table. And if you're like, hey, I still don't know if my guys will be able to sell this to therapists, because I've got some of these therapists are like, sales, or I don't really know, or my front office doesn't know these things. If that's something you feel like your teams just still need some help on, make sure you join our school group. So it's skool.com/Rehab CEOs. There's in the description below, you can actually find more, because there is over 20 videos in there and a 38-page doc of absolutely everything you need to know in your sales process. So you can start consistently turning someone from a skeptic into a believer, someone who says the $30 copay is too cheap, to how many visits can I get? Because that sounds like a good deal. And if you want to fix your drop-off issues, it starts at the front. So if that's something that you want, make sure to join us, and I'll see you on the next one.